Many people recognize the value of a strong mentoring relationship, and many people are encouraged by their employers to be menteed, particularly at more junior levels, although I think that mentoring is important wherever you are in your career. It's one thing to shake hands and agree to a mentoring relationship, but it's another to make sure that that relationship has some purpose. So what are some of the key ingredients that need to be in a strong and effective mentoring relationship? So the first key ingredient that you want in a strong mentoring relationship that may seem obvious, but is missed so often, is a clarity of purpose. First of all, the mentee needs to understand what it is they want to achieve as a result of that relationship, but then they need to share that with their mentor. It's all about teamwork. It's all about both of you being on the same page. A relationship won't work if the mentee has one outcome in mind, but the mentor is trying to push them in a different direction. So have a clarity of purpose. Have a clear idea between both of you of what you're working towards. And that's important whether your mentoring relationship is a formal one or an informal one. It's important that when people give you advice, it's not the advice that they would like to see you implement. It's the advice that they know will help you towards the objective that you have stated you're trying to reach. My second ingredient for a key mentoring relationship is that it's driven by the mentee, particularly if, as in many cases, it's an unpaid relationship, if it's a volunteer mentor. It's so important that the mentee understands and respects the investment that the mentor is giving in giving their time and their experience and their expertise to the mentee. So don't expect your mentor to pick up the phone if they haven't heard from you. Some will. That's a bonus. That shouldn't be expected. If you're the mentee, you drive the relationship. Driving the relationship means you set the objectives and you communicate them. Driving the relationship means you make sure you're meeting on a regular basis. You make sure you prepare for that meeting. You make sure you communicate what you want from that meeting, and you make sure that the meetings happen and are punctual. And driving the relationship means that you constantly feed back to your mentor and allow them to hold you accountable, but also make sure that they're aware what part of their advice you value, what part of their advice you're going to implement, and what you have done with it. The third ingredient for successful mentoring relationships is that there's no sugarcoating. You need honesty and transparency between both of you. If you're the mentee, it's not about you feeling good. If you're the mentor, it's not about you making someone feel good. There are moments when you have to lift your mentee, but also there are moments when you have to push them on. And you can't do that unless you're completely open with them. Dame Catherine Granger, the Olympic rower, the world champion rower and chairwoman of UK sport, was interviewed by The Times in 2017, and something she said in that interview really jumped out at me. You would rather your coach tell you genuinely what is needed and where your failings are and where your strengths are, rather than your coach sugarcoating it and keeping it positive all of the time. What was important in the relationship between a gold medal winning athlete and her coach is equally important in the relationship between mentee and mentor. Sugarcoating doesn't help anyone. Sugarcoating holds you back. It's honesty shared in the right way that helps us progress and drive our careers and our businesses forward. So our fourth ingredient in our mentoring relationships is leave your ego at the door. And that's obvious for mentees. You know, the ego getting in the way for a mentee is a major red flag. If you think you're right before you walk in the door, then your mentor just can't help you. You have to accept that they have the experience and the expertise that's going to help you, and you've chosen them for a reason. But leaving your ego at the door is equally important for the mentor. It's important to realize that you're there to help your mentee, not to show them how good you are. It's important that what you understand that you're sharing your experiences and you're sharing what's worked for you. That doesn't necessarily mean that they're right for someone else. So you're throwing ideas into the pot and you're discussing them. But don't be closed off to new ideas because it's not what you did. So share your expertise, share your experience, but put them out there for discussion and exploration rather than just saying this is your solution. Leave your ego at the door. The final ingredient for our mentoring relationships is accountability. And I've already mentioned that a few times when I've talked about the other elements of the mentoring relationship because it's so important. You're limiting yourself if you just have an exchange of ideas. What makes a mentoring relationship really work is applying those ideas and reviewing their application, understanding what worked and what didn't work, and actually showing your mentor, if you're the mentee, that you're taking them seriously, that you're listening, you're learning, you're applying, you're trying, and you're reviewing. So every mentoring meeting should start with a recap of what happened since the last session. And it should end with commitments moving forward. So those are 5 of the key ingredients that go into making great mentoring relationships. I wouldn't for any moment suggest that they're the only 5, but start with those and you'll have a much stronger relationship than many that I see that are in action without really considering what they want to achieve. 5 key ways that you can make sure you get more out of your mentor or mentee. Clarity of purpose. Being driven by the mentee. Honesty and transparency. Leaving ego at the door. Accountability. Start with those 5 and build a much stronger mentoring relationship that's going to drive your career forward.